this video, I'm going to show you a technique that I like to use to layer Braam sounds. And this technique is especially useful for creating eerie and kind of also washed out Braam sounds. I'm going to create every sound from scratch, but I do have a tutorial already on how to create Braam sound effects. And you might want to watch that first, and you might want to spend a bit more time on creating your own Braam sounds, because I'm going to be doing this very quickly here in this tutorial. So I'm just going to start with the default preset in Vital, just change this to a sine wave, and then activate the other two oscillators, use a bit of unison on one of them, run everything through a low pass filter, then go to the effects and just enable compression and distortion, and then another filter to cut the highs. And then this layer is going to be a heavily reverbed one, so I'm just going to put the reverb to 100%, cut the highs a bit and make it a bit longer, and increase the size. And I actually want this to play one octave higher, but I want to have a pitch bend at the beginning and at the end. So I'm just going to be using LFO1, put this on the global voice transpose, set the amount to 12 semitones, and now set this to envelope mode and also make this one bar long. Let's actually just draw in a note here already. And I want the pitch bend at the end to be roughly 1 or maybe 2 semitones. Yeah, something like this. Increase the reverb a bit. This sounds okay, so I'll just duplicate this. And now I'm going to make a lower pitched version of this. So I'm just going to be using LFO1 again. And I actually just want to keep the pitch bend at the end. And I'm going to set this to -1. So this also is pitching 1 semitone down, as is the higher pitched version here. I want this to be a bit drier, so I'm gonna reduce the reverb quite a bit. Actually gonna be using LFO1 and put this on the mix of this, so we have the dry signal, and at the end when we have the bend, the reverb comes in, and so we have a nice reverb tail from this. Maybe give it a bit of reverb already at the beginning. Maybe let's go quickly back to the other version, and because we're going to be layering these two on top of each other, we can cut the low end of this one. I want this one to be a bit quieter, so let's actually just use a utility and reduce the gain a bit. Put this in a group and do some quick processing. So let's just bounce this. Okay, so this is essentially our first layer, and now we can just duplicate this entire group. Let's put this audio track up here and drag this over here. And now I'm just going to make a higher pitched version of this. So let's see how this sounds if we just maybe pitch this up 1 octave. Just copy this MIDI clip down here now. Maybe make a few changes. This is the lower one. So just have one oscillator 1 octave higher, and then on the higher pitched version, also let a bit of more high end through. So now it sounds like this. Let's just keep this one as well. Maybe it's gonna be handy once we start layering. So bounce this. And now I'm just gonna copy the first group again. I essentially just want to make another version without the pitch bend. So this is the higher layer now. And then for the lower layer, we just change the LFO to this. Let's resample this as well. So now with these 3 different versions, we can start doing some more layering and processing. Just going to be adding a few more audio tracks, and let's just group this together, reduce the volume of all of these a bit. I just want to maybe take this higher one and reverse it, grab the reverb tail essentially, so we have a nice fade in here. Let's reverse it again, and we just grab the reverb tail. Let's put a lot of reverb on this. And compress the reverb as well. Maybe actually pitch this one up 1 octave. Should be a bit more intense that way. This third layer without any pitch bends is actually there to create some dissonance when the other 2 layers are pitching down at the end. We can also do some processing on the entire group here. Let's also do some processing on these individual elements. We can still get rid of some low end here in this higher layer. Let's reduce some of the muddiness in this one as well. I'm also going to grab a second equalizer for this because I don't really like the bump in the low end that we have at the pitch bend at the end here. So I'm just going to automate this. This way it sounds, I think, a bit cleaner in the tail. And now you can also improve the transition between these elements here. The easiest way, I think, is to just layer this with a hit or with a boom sample. Or you can also play around with fade-ins, something like this maybe, or just lightly fade in the individual elements and see if that works, just to kind of ensure a smooth transition between this fade-in element here and the main sound.